record, everyone. So thank you all for coming today. We are talking about arthritis and travel here. So we'll just start with a little bit of a disclaimer. Oh, why is my screen frozen? That's not what we want. And just checking, we can all see my screen that says arthritis and travel.
Yep.
Beautiful. So when we do these presentations, we do make sure the information we give you is always evidence-based, it's accurate and reliable. I'll do my best to help you out with any questions you might have in regards to your trips coming up. If it's regarding treatment, I'll direct you to your doctor, but I'll try to help you out, especially if some of you are traveling tomorrow. So we will talk a little bit about some of the common challenges we do face when you're traveling. I do encourage you to share your own that you've had in the past. And I have a little bit of advice and recommendations around pre-trip planning, packing, considerations to make when you're traveling abroad, and I guess share with you some of the information around key advocacy groups and support groups that can help with some more logistical planning and things. Just a show of hands, who's traveling these holidays? I know some of you are traveling tomorrow, in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm going back to Victoria in December for Christmas.
Yep, beautiful.
And what I really want to do is to get over to England and Italy, but I don't know when that's going to be because of, the arthritis and stuff.
Yeah, and that's a common thing we do here. There's a little bit of apprehension around future planning of holidays, and it's just because of the limitations and the challenges we face with this condition. It can be very debilitating at times. So I guess some of the specific challenges we have with traveling, the extended periods of sitting, so those long haul flights, train rides, road trips as such. All of these require sitting for long periods of time, which can lead to stiffness and pain in the joints. And it's a bit of a catch-22 because it's the immobility, it's the extended sitting periods that can worsen symptoms, making it uncomfortable when you do finally get up and finally start moving around. We have the limited access to movement. So in some places, it can be really hard to actually do your exercise, and when you don't have that ability to walk around frequently, it can lead to things like joint swelling and discomfort, which happens especially on those long haul flights. Luggage, I'm sure all of us have, reservations around our luggages. Lifting or pulling the luggage can actually put strain on those arthritic joints. And especially if you're maneuvering luggage around those crowded airports. If you're in Europe, going down into the train stations, if you've ever been to London, you know what that's like, and doing it with a suitcase isn't challenging enough, but then you've got the extra layer of arthritis, which furthers, can exacerbate pain and increase the risk of injury. We have weather and temperature changes to adjust to. We've got unfamiliar accommodations, so those hotel rooms or rental accommodations aren't always optimal for people with arthritis. It means, hard beds, low toilets, showers without handrails can make it really difficult to do those everyday tasks. We also have the medication that we're going to circle back on, and we're going to talk about how it can be tricky to travel with, but some of the ways we can make that easier. And then we also have increased fatigue, stress, anxiety when you're going into a new country or a new city and you're not familiar with your logistics or accessibility points, can make things just that much worse. This can increase fatigue. Traveling's exhausting enough, but living with a condition and trying to navigate that can be extra challenging as well. So these tips are going to be quite broad because the preparation really depends on which country you're traveling to, which season you're going into. But generally speaking, starting with a general health check to make sure you're in good shape to handle those physical demands of travel can be an excellent starting point. So, has anyone met with their healthcare provider before their holiday to actually assess any potential health risks? So your GP is a really great starting point because they're going to help assess the risks related to destination, activity level, even the mode of travel. So they're the ones who can give you that tailored advice on managing those symptoms and making adjustments around things like your medication schedule, especially if you're crossing over time zones, and talking about any specific precautions to take, especially if you're someone who struggles with flare-ups at the most random of times. Necessary vaccinations and health checks. Again, this is ultimately depending on which destination you're going to. There are certain vaccinations that could be required to protect against local diseases. And especially if you're on any DMARDs, biologics, anti-inflammatory medication that suppresses the immune system, this can increase susceptibility to infections, which can furthermore exacerbate joint pain and your arthritis symptoms, which can lead to complications. The shingles vaccine, for example, is typically recommended for people with rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, psoriatic arthritis, usually any one of those any one of those inflammatory conditions, and anywhere where there's the body's ability to keep the virus dormant. So usually the risk of shingles is increased. So it's really important we discuss this vaccine with your healthcare provider, especially if you're on any of those immunosuppressive medication. Your doctor, again, is going to be the best person to help you determine best timing and whether the vaccine is actually suitable for you based on your medication, health status, and where you're going. I know recently Medicare have enabled funding. They've extended that eligibility criteria to actually allow for people with a type of arthritis, the inflammatory types of arthritis, to get that vaccine. So that could be an important conversation to actually have. Making sure you have an adequate supply of medication. So traveling with an ample amount of medication is important because, one, it might not always be possible to refill prescriptions aboard. But in some countries, that medication might not be readily available. It might vary in different countries in terms of the formulation. And so carrying extra medication can be really important. Also carrying a prescription or a doctor's note and making sure you're adhering to the proper storage conditions, especially for those medications that are a bit more temperature sensitive. You can generally travel with prescription meds, but it's important to actually be aware of any regulations or any restrictions that might be apparent in some of those destination countries. Different countries have different rules about the medications, and some of those countries do require you to carry a doctor's note, a translated prescription if you're traveling abroad into a non-English speaking country, and even maybe an import permit. And I'll circle back to this and tell you where you can actually find out more about those regulations and how to handle medication in those I guess internationally. So it's really important we do the research, we understand those specific rules of the destination country before we just jump into traveling abroad. Now, when you're traveling with arthritis, carrying those comfort items can really make a big difference in managing that pain and stiffness. The supportive travel pillows can really be good for that neck and back support during those long haul flights, car rides, train journeys, because they're going to help reduce joint strain and maintain that good posture. And similarly, what you're seeing on my screen here is a lumbar support cushion. So these are designed to actually prevent back pain, but offering that extra support to the lower back. Heat therapy, there are portable devices you can use. There's also reusable heat pads or warm packs that you activate through cracking or shaking. These can be really soothing for those arthritis pains and can relieve stiffness after a long day, especially if you're going to be active for hours at a time. Now, for inflammation and swelling, some people respond really well to heat therapies and those heat packs. Other people respond better to those cold packs, those frozen or activated ones on demand. It's up to you in terms of what gives you the relief during those sudden flare ups, but it is advised that you do carry these around if this is a form of pain management for you individually. Now, compression gloves, socks, these can also be helpful. They're designed to actually reduce hand and leg swelling, improve circulation, which can alleviate that stiffness and discomfort. And additionally, a lightweight blanket or shawl can help keep those joints warm, as cold temperatures can really worsen those arthritis symptoms, especially if you're in a cold air-conditioned environment like the plane as such. Some people actually like to take small handheld massages. That's if you respond well to massage. These can be good for relieving muscle tension. We know that when the muscles are supported and relieved, then that can, in addition, help the affected joints. They can help with improving blood circulation, potentially help with reducing that joint stiffness as well. Medication is something we're going back to, but making sure you're organized with your medication, making sure they're easy to access, taken on schedule. This is especially important for those with complex regimens. So if you have any other comorbidities where you're required to take medication on a regular basis, making sure that you're carrying something like a lunchbox can be a really good tip for carrying medication abroad. Easy way to keep medication in one place, but also keep it cool if you do normally store your medication in the fridge or a cold environment. These are the kind of tools that can make things a lot easier for you. And then lastly, pre-packing some moisturizing creams or gels with those soothing ingredients like menthol, arnica, capsaicin, making sure your skin is staying hydrated is said to help potentially reduce joint pain. It's not always the case, but for some people, they do find relief in keeping their skin hydrated and can help prevent the stiffness that's exacerbated by those dry climatic conditions. Like any event, journey, unforeseen task, careful planning can really make a difference to your experience, especially when it comes to comfort and accessibility. For air travel, I guess starting with choosing an aisle seat or making sure you have one with extra legroom. These aren't always available on a last minute basis, so being prepared early can really help with that accessibility, not only in terms of getting to your seat with ease, but also making sure you've got regular movement that can help prevent that joint stiffness. So with the extra leg room, you can actually make sure that you do the exercises while you're seated, especially if you've got arthritis in the knee or in the hip or the back, in your toes even. Simple exercises like just raising and lowering your toes while keeping your heels on the ground, raising and lowering your heels while your toes stay on the ground. And if you have space, lift your foot off the ground as well and straighten your leg until you feel it in your hamstrings. Usually, depending on how long you were traveling for, the pain and stiffness can set in while sitting during a long flight. So making sure you get up out of your seat, walking up and down the aisle at least every couple of hours. The more frequent, the better, but it's going to prevent the stiffness that's exacerbated by immobility. Same thing pretty much goes for road trips. It's really important to plan those frequent breaks, to stretch, reduce stiffness, and make sure you have comfortable seating. So that lumbar support cushion that I showed you before can be great to have in the car, especially when you start feeling the pain in your lower back. And then having that travel kit with essentials like the heat packs, cold packs, medications, but also the snacks and the bottle of water to stay hydrated and comfortable. Train and bus travel is a little bit different. You want to make sure that you're opting for less crowded travel times. This is going to make it easier to move around, access accessible seating, and also coordinate your accessibility requirements with staff. So staffing are there to actually help you use your wheeled luggage like suitcases. You can also make things a bit easier by having a suitcase with extendable handles and wheels that rotate at 360 degrees. These are going to be great options for helping you pull and push your luggage around a lot easier. And so another thing that we often talk about is just making sure you're not afraid to ask for help wherever you go. So you can request boarding assistance to help reduce the physical strain, especially if you're someone whose mobility is affected by pain. You could call the airline beforehand to just let them know about your condition so they have advance notice, and then they're able to either provide you with wheelchair access, early boarding, and have airline personnel carry your luggage around or help you lift it into the overhead bin if you're going on a plane. They can also help accommodate you with special shuttles. Now, has anyone ever heard of the Sunflower Project or the Hidden Disability Sunflower Scheme? No? Has anyone seen the lanyards with the sunflowers on them on some people?
No.
Okay, so pretty much just some background on this. There is an international initiative. It's aimed at making public spaces more accessible and supportive for people with invisible disabilities or challenges. So this was founded back in 2016 at an airport in the UK, but ultimately the project's goal is to actually help people where you can't see the disability, you can't see how it's affected. This includes arthritis. Receive additional support and understanding without having to always disclose your disability verbally. So how the Sunflower Project actually works is people receive a sunflower lanyard, wristband, badge, or any other item that displays a sunflower pattern. And it's meant to be a discrete symbol that signals to staff and others around them that the wearer might need things like a little extra time, assistance, or understanding due to that hidden disability. So it's meant to be a non-stigmatizing, voluntary, easy to recognize symbol. And it's actually recognized across a number of countries, many airports worldwide, including Gatwick, Heathrow, Sydney, as well as airlines, have adopted the Sunflower Scheme to make air travel way more inclusive. And same with major public transit systems. So London, New York, Sydney, all of these cities accept the sunflower symbol as an indication that someone needs extra help. Okay, so destination considerations. So the relationship between climate and arthritis symptoms, it still remains really unclear. Some people suggest they do experience weather-related effects. If that's anyone here, does anyone feel like their joints flare up in really cold climates?
Yep.
Yeah. The impact appears to be highly individual, with no single best climate for arthritis sufferers. I've heard some people react to really extreme heats. So there are a lot of different theories that try to explain how this link might occur. They do suggest the cold could potentially increase the viscosity of synovial fluid, which is the fluid between the joints, or the barometric pressure changes could affect the pressure within the joints, causing expansion or contraction of tissues around the joints, which is what causes the pain. But they do think that weather patterns could influence mood and activity levels as well, which can indirectly affect pain perception. You don't really want to go running or walking or doing outdoor swim classes when it's pouring down with rain and there's storms, or if there's floods as such. So there's a lot of mixed results within this research. Some studies have found very clear associations between weather patterns. Others haven't found any links at all. So again, very individual. Some studies have found that drops in temperature are associated with increased pain. One study even showed that there was a 10-degree temperature drop that was linked to an incremental increase in pain, whereas warmer temperatures might provide that relief to some people. So if you're someone who notices the flares in certain temperatures or certain climates, staying hydrated for one can really help reduce the impact of something like the barometric pressure, especially because dehydration can worsen symptoms. We have evidence and data to show that. Can also worsen symptoms like headaches and fatigues, which make it that much more challenging to navigate arthritis. Making sure you have those available heat therapies, staying warm, especially if you're going to a cold climate. Disposable heat patches like Pain Away, they're very small and easy to carry heat therapies. So if you haven't seen these, you can access them easily at a pharmacy. Same goes for cold packs. You don't need to be refrigerated or kept warm. You just simply activate them by squeezing. They're about this big. You can stick it on the affected joints, and they're said to give some people immediate relief. Now, managing arthritis medication, we've mentioned this a few times, it does require a bit of preparation and planning to make sure that you maintain the treatment regimen. So before traveling, talk to your healthcare provider about the time zone you're traveling into. It's important to maintain the medication schedule to make sure you don't miss the dose or take them at the wrong time. For short trips with minor time differences, like an hour or 2 hours, this might not be required necessarily. You won't really need to adjust any schedule. It's more applicable to those longer time zone differences, like those over 5 hours. So a full adjustment of the schedule could be required, and it might be beneficial to start a few days before you travel. There are apps that are available to help you out with this tracking. So one is called MediSafe or My Therapy, and I'll pop that into the chat group shortly. But these can help you track your schedule and track your doses, and they allow you to input your time zone and your destination to make sure you're getting those notifications in your new location. If you are traveling internationally, make sure the medication is available at your destination. Like I said earlier in this presentation, not all countries will give you access to your medication. So it's super important to plan ahead. The rule of thumb is to bring at least 2 weeks supply of your medication plus extra just in case of an emergency. And this emergency might be delays, lost luggage, or any other unexpected issues that can occur. So make sure you do keep it in its original packing. This can avoid confusion at the customs or any kind of security checkpoint. And make sure you're following those legal regulations. The CDC website, so the Center Disease Control Center, has a wealth of information on traveling with prescription medications. And so they'll actually show you the list of countries where there are specific regulations. You can always go in there and just double check if there's anything applicable to you. So make sure if you are going on a plane, you carry that medication in your carry-on. Like we said, you never can be certain about lost luggages or delays. Sometimes your luggage might be hours before you actually receive it in your new location. If your arthritis medication is in your carry-on, it's one way of actually mitigating that risk. Some medications like biologics or injectable treatments really need to be kept at a certain temperature to be effective. So make sure you're using an insulated cooler. This is where lunch boxes can be super helpful. Has enough space for an ice pack. Just keeping that medication in there is going to help keep it at the correct temperature. If you're going through airport security, they can be really strict about this. So it wouldn't hurt to actually carry the doctor's note or prescription on you, especially if you're traveling with that injectable medication, large quantities of liquid medication, or anything that might just raise some questions. Pain management on the go, there are a few things you can do. So over-the-counter medication, pain relief, for that temporary relief of pain or flare-ups while traveling. Medications like ibuprofen or acetaminophen can help. You can pack those portable heat therapies again, compression sleeves, braces, but making sure you stay active and stretch. That's going to give you the longer lasting pain relief above anything else. So that exercise, maintaining mobility is absolutely essential. So try incorporating those gentle exercises where you can. So if you are going on a plane, getting that extra leg room can make a big difference to arthritis in the knees and hips. Take regular breaks. If you're on that long flight, moving around is going to help improve that circulation and reduce the stiffness in the joints. And then, of course, there's arthritis-friendly gadgets. So walking aids or a cane if you need one. Using ergonomic travel accessories like a travel pillow or special shoes. These can also be very beneficial. So we've said a little bit about staying active and stretching. Again, exercise is absolutely crucial for managing arthritis. It's going to help maintain mobility, reduce stiffness, and incorporating things like stretching or walking into your daily routine is going to help keep your body limber. Not only does this improve your flexibility, but it's going to help prevent any kind of flare-ups that could be aggravated by those long periods of sitting or inactivity. Taking breaks, those long flights or car trips, can cause joint stiffness. So to minimize this, make sure you're taking regular breaks, packing those arthritis-friendly gadgets, staying hydrated plays a really key role in managing those symptoms. So having in the aeroplane, you can probably remember how dry the climate actually gets. This can very quickly dehydrate your body. So make sure you're carrying a reusable water bottle and sip it regularly throughout your trip. Sometimes it's just setting a reminder on your phone to make sure you're continuing to stay hydrated can make a big difference to your symptoms. And in saying that, it's also important to watch that alcohol consumption. I know sometimes when you're on a 5-6 hour flight and they come through the cabin with the little red wine bottles or the beers, this can be tempting, but it's really important to limit that alcohol consumption because it can dehydrate you for starters, but it can also interact with certain medications, which makes them less effective and cause those unwanted side effects. There's a great suggestion in the chat box that has popped up, but traveling with TheraBands, making sure there's some kind of resistance. They can easily be used in somewhere like a plane or a train. Managing flare-ups while traveling. If you have some kind of inflammatory arthritis, these flare-ups can occur very unexpectedly out of nowhere. If you know your arthritis could flare up, make sure you bring those medications like the corticosteroid pills, topical ointments, anti-inflammatory drugs to manage any kind of symptoms that come with that disease activity. You can talk to your doctor about this because you might need to adjust the medication, carry an additional prescription. especially if you're experiencing a lot of symptoms in that case. Just thinking. Rest and elevation is another one. So if you're dealing with pain during travel, rest is essential for managing those flare-ups as well. So if you can, find a comfortable spot to sit down or lie and elevate the affected joint. If you're traveling by plane or car, use pillows in the cabin, or if you've brought one, to support the joint and keep it elevated while you're resting. So this is just, again, about promoting that circulation. Something to be aware of are the local health resources. So this goes with any kind of pre-planning of a trip, making sure that you're considering where you're going to, and not only avoiding countries where you know there's going to be troubles with stairs or limited accessibility. Just make sure there's local health available at your destination and where the nearest hospital or clinic is, just in the case of an emergency or if you need to refill your medications. So you can also talk to your local, not your local, but your health insurance, and make sure that medication is covered under the health insurance abroad. Knowing where to just access any kind of healthcare service is going to make sure that you're prepared in the case of any flare-up. So alternative treatments and supplements. People with arthritis usually find relief from things like glucosamine, chondroitin, fish oil. If you use these supplements regularly, make sure you're actually bringing an adequate supply with you on your trip. Make sure you store them properly, like fish oil needs to always be refrigerated. Check the travel regulations as well for bringing supplements into other countries. That's pretty much just about being prepared in advance. So keeping medications accessible, maintaining a flexible routine. This is going to be key to managing that arthritis effectively. So making sure you're staying hydrated, active, you've got your gadgets available. All of this is going to help with making sure your trip is comfortable while also enjoying your travels while managing arthritis. Now, earlier I mentioned the Sunflower Project. They're there to actually fast track you through security checkpoints. They're there to give you assistance on planes, buses, trains, airports, some shopping centers even. You can access their lanyards for free or sign up online to get some of their resources, and they're really useful because they are internationally recognized. Mobility Matters as well. They're an Australian company, but they provide a range of mobility aids and accessible travel products. So they're there to offer advice for people who are traveling with disabilities and how to use mobility devices during the trips. So they can offer travel products like portable ramps, mobility scooters, wheelchairs, accessible luggage, and help ultimately maintain that independence and comfort while you're traveling. Similarly with Able Australia, another advocacy group, they support people with disabilities and focusing on accessibility and improving quality of life through services, information, and advocacy. So they're actually able to provide accessible travel advice, programs, resources, as well as help you if you are planning a future holiday. So accessible destinations, accommodations, transport options. They're there to help you with the itinerary and can be really beneficial, especially if you're traveling within Australia. They can make sure that you've got all the up-to-date information about accessibility across the country. So on that note, I'm going to open the floor to any questions in case you might have some. So I'll stop the recording just here because we're almost at the end.